Hello ARISTOS fans, this is Aaron Reed, orchestrator for ARISTOS the Musical, with another inside look into how ARISTOS is made. So one of the awesome things about the musical is that we have people from all over the world, several continents, I don't know, 10 countries? Maybe Muse will have to confirm, but all time zones, all ages, all nationalities coming together to work on this awesome project. While it's amazing that we have so many contributors, it presents a unique challenge to make everything line up and sound good. We're not recording in a studio, we're recording in tens, dozens of people's bedrooms, kitchens, bathrooms, which is awesome, but it's a recording challenge. So let me show you how we get everything to line up. So the file we're looking at here is what will become our track Slave Woman's Lament. It is a big piece, big instruments, lots of voices. And we have, right here, we're looking at the ensemble, who we're calling the captives for this scene. This is all the captive Trojan women singing behind Briseis, Iphis, and Diomede, who are up here, Diomede, Briseis. So, as I'm saying, the challenge is getting everyone to line up. And the refrain here is grief gives way to grief. So I can play what we have so far. And this is what it currently sounds like.
Grief gives way to grief, gives way to grief, gives way to grief. And grief gives way to grief, gives way to grief, gives way to grief. Grief gives way to grief, gives way to grief, gives way to grief. Grief gives way to grief, gives way to grief, gives way to grief.
Pretty good, and there we sort of ran into some other parts as well. Everyone's, the harmonies are coming through, but not everyone is lining up exactly. And what I've done here is these three I've already lined up, and I will show you how we do that with the fourth. So if I turn the metronome on here.
Grief gives way to grief, gives way to grief, gives way to grief. Grief gives way to grief, gives way to grief, gives way to grief.
You can hear everyone's right on beat, whereas this is some audio that I haven't gone through and processed yet.
Grief gives way to grief, gives way to grief, gives way to grief. Grief gives way to grief, gives way to grief, gives way to grief. Grief gives way to grief.
So you can hear the downbeat in what she's singing starts to lag behind the metronome or get ahead. I couldn't tell in that one. So what we do in this case, we use a feature called Smart Tempo here. And what we can actually do is we can go into the audio file and mark where the downbeats occur. So if I start right here, now what you're listening to is just this audio file, no reverb, no nothing, just the unprocessed audio.
Grief gives way to grief, gives way to grief, gives way to grief. Grief gives way to grief.
So you can already hear right here. And by the way, let me mention, this is no fault of our performers. This piece in particular changed tempo several times. And so some people recorded at 90 beats a minute. Some people recorded at 96 beats a minute. It all depended on when they did that recording. So it's not that our performers are off time. It's that I think I changed my mind on what tempo this piece should be. But right here, you can see where each grief starts. Here's 1, 2, 3, 4. We get 4 refrains of that. Grief gives way to grief, gives way to grief, gives way to grief. So I'm gonna right now take this downbeat. Well, actually, let me take this downbeat. Now I'm saying that this first grief is the downbeat.
Grief gives way to grief, gives way to grief, gives way to grief.
That sounds pretty good, but look at how the second grief falls.
Grief gives way to grief, gives way to grief, gives way to grief, gives way to grief.
By the end of that, we're on the grief gives way to grief, gives way. It's on the it's on the upbeats. So what we're going to do is take this, scale it down, scale it back a little bit, And now let's listen again right here and see if it lines up with the beats.
Grief gives way to grief, gives way to grief, gives way to grief.
And you can hear in this section, she's just a little bit faster than the beat. So again, we can take and make sure this downbeat falls in the middle of this grief right here. You can kind of see how you can see the waveform, which helps you place things. But the best tool to use is your ears.
Grief gives way to grief, gives way to grief, gives way to grief. Grief gives way to grief, gives way to grief, gives way to grief.
Yeah, and do the same thing on the third set of griefs here. I wonder how many times I'm going to say grief in this video.
Grief gives way to grief, gives way to grief, gives way to grief.
Great, that sounds good. So what we're going to do now, all we've done here is mark the tempo in this audio file. So now we're going to ask Logic, which is my DAW, Digital Audio Workstation. We're going to ask Logic Pro to match up these downbeats to the tempo of the piece. And you can see the audio file just subtly changed right there. And what it has done, this tempo up here, which is at 96 beats per minute, it's not showing right now. But this is the tempo that the entire song is at. So now the downbeats should line up better with those that are already here. Let's listen.
Grief gives way to grief, gives way to grief, gives way to grief. Grief gives way to grief, gives way to grief, gives way to grief. Grief gives way to grief, gives way to grief, gives way to grief. Grief gives way to grief, gives way to grief, gives way to grief.
Right, okay, so we've fixed that pretty well. So before, the voice was getting ahead of the metronome, and now they line up pretty well. And we can go ahead and listen to the voices that we have synchronized as of yet.
Grief gives way to grief, gives way to grief, gives way to grief. Grief gives way to grief, gives way to grief, gives way to grief. Grief gives way to grief, gives way to grief, gives way to grief. Grief gives way to grief, gives way to grief, gives way to grief.
Yeah, and let me just say, all of our sopranos, really all of our ensemble singers, have just been dead on pitch, which has made my life a whole lot easier. Because I only have to correct for tempo, which was really my own doing in to begin with. It's so great when everybody is just on pitch, in time, and yeah, it's going great. Maybe I'll stay on a bit, do the rest of the voices so you can hear the whole harmony, but maybe we can fast forward through this part. All right, so I wanted to call out another thing that sometimes happens here when audio comes in several pieces. I've turned the metronome off, but when I play this audio, you can still hear a click. I'll play it again. Now this happens because two different pieces of the audio file come together, and what happens, you can't hear a click like this when it's silence. But when someone is singing, when the signal is high and you try to put two pieces of audio together, at the point where they meet, there's a sudden dropout, and you can see that in the waveform right here. That's the pop. It suddenly goes from very loud to zero and back to very loud, and that manifests as an audible pop. And what we can do to fix that is add what I'm doing here is called a crossfade. It transitions smoothly between this piece of audio and that piece of audio. And now when we listen to it again, we've eliminated the pop. In electrical engineering, that's called an impulse response that we've eliminated with crossfading. So yeah, just another cool thing I thought I'd show you. All right, so we've just finished aligning the tempo for all of our audio for our ensemble sopranos and altos. I don't think there was barely any pitch correction I had to do. I mean, all of our singers were dead on pitch, which again makes my job super easy and enjoyable. So thank you, everyone who contributed voices here. Let's listen to what it all sounds like.
Grief gives way to grief, gives way to grief, gives way to grief. Grief gives way to grief, gives way to grief, gives way to grief. Grief gives way to grief, gives way to grief, gives way to grief. Grief gives way to grief, gives way to grief, gives way to grief.
How about that? All right, so that's our ensemble. Let's see if our leads are in order. I believe I also finished with the leads here. Yes, I did. Okay. So now we're going to hear ensemble plus leads on this last chorus.
Again. Grief gives way to grief, gives way to grief, gives way to grief. And grief gives way to grief, gives way to grief, gives way to grief. Grief gives way to grief, gives way to grief, gives way to grief. Grief gives way to grief, gives way to grief, gives way to grief.
That's sounding pretty good. Just a few things I'll have to clean up in a bit, but I also want you to hear what it sounds like with all voices plus instruments. Hopefully everything's lined up here.
And grief gives way to grief, gives way to grief, gives way to grief. And grief gives way to grief, gives way to grief, gives way to grief. Grief gives way to grief, gives way to grief, gives way to grief. Grief gives way to grief, gives way to grief, gives way to grief.
Well, looks like that wasn't all instruments. That was electric guitar and timpani. You'll have to wait for the album to hear strings, drums, and additional instruments. But I hope this was cool. This is just a glimpse into the process of putting together a remote album with contributions from all over the world. This is Aaron Reed, orchestrator and co-composer for ARISTOS the musical, and this was a little bit of Slave Woman's Lament in the works.